Well, Jim, one thing that we've received on the topic of Smoky Mountain Wrestling, we received a bunch of questions recently about what I guess is commonly referred to as your Nosebleed interview. It's a promo with you and the Heavenly Bodies.
It's actually not even the only one. There's another one on TBS, the studio show on TBS Saturday night, where I actually slung blood enough that it landed on Stan's chest, and he looks down and goes, "What the fuck?" But go ahead.
Well, we have this promo here, and like I said, we received a lot of questions about it. If it's okay with you, I'd like to play it, and then get your thoughts and memories on it on the other side.
Well, let me set it up a little first.
Okay.
Because that way people will understand better, because I know what you're playing, because I've been getting asked about this for the past few years. And this clip is on YouTube, and you'll tell them where they can, see it, because it's video as well, obviously. So you can tell them where they can see it in a minute. But every time that somebody goes around of, seeing this video, I get emails, or I've been questioned on Twitter. Holy shit, either why did your nose start bleeding? Were you on cocaine? I'm sure that's probably what some of the boys thought. Why didn't you redo it? Wow, that was just, registering that it was a good promo. This was a pre-tape on one of the Smoky Mountain Wrestling television programs. And we were just a couple of weeks away from Thanksgiving Thunder 1992, the first year that we had been in business and done the Thanksgiving weekend shows. And we had 4 set up: Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Thanksgiving weekend in 4 different towns. They were going to be our big cards. And the main events were for the Smoky Mountain Tag Team title. The Heavenly Bodies would face the Rock and Roll Express after our initial angle had been running there for a few months, in 4 different stipulation matches for the tag team title on 4 successive nights. And instead of trying to hide that we were going to wrestle him 4 nights in a row in a small territory like that, and so we could get the maximum promotion out of television, we went the other way and told everybody, yeah, this is something that, it's a marathon type of thing where these teams are going to have to go through 4 of the most dangerous matches in wrestling, 4 nights in a row at Thanksgiving Thunder, tag team title on the line every night in every match. And as it would turn out, we switched the belts every night. And people are going to say, oh, I thought when you said you switched the titles too much, it's meaningless. Well, no, when you build up something like this as the cataclysmic occurrence, and then it pays off, it makes sense. Then we didn't switch the belts for another few months or whatever the fuck. But each night, the team that won them the night before would drop them back, and their stipulations would backfire or whatever. And this promo was not even live in front of the people. A Smoky Mountain television taping, we'd all get there. Well, I would get there along with the technical crew at like 1 or 2 in the afternoon, and they'd be setting up in the ring and etc. And then the announcers would get there, and we'd have a production meeting about 3:00. And then by 4:30, we'd be done with that. And then we'd do pre-tapes for an hour and a half or so. And by then you'd have to let the people in, and none of the boys could go out in the building because the people were in the building. So we'd be jammed up in the locker rooms, and there's where we would do, the rest of the laying out of the television program. So it was a tight day to begin with. And I was doing everything from writing the show to then coming and making sure that the production was set up, and then hosting the production meeting, and then appearing in a bunch of the pre-taped interviews, and then laying out everything for the guys live, and appearing on each one of the television programs in at least one segment, possibly more. So there wasn't a lot of time to sit around. And we only had 1 pre-tape camera. So anyway, it's a down and dirty with Dutch Mantell segment, because Dutch was doing color at the time on the show. He would interview the talent in the middle interview section each week, sometimes live in the ring, sometimes a pre-tape. This was a pre-tape that I had allotted 4 minutes for, and that I was going to sell all those matches over Thanksgiving Thunder weekend, plus the idea that I was being forced to wrestle on TV that night by Bob Armstrong, because it was obviously a plot to try to weaken me, etc., etc. So I had a lot to cover. The 4 minutes turns out to be about 6 minutes. But at about 4.5 minutes in, where I start getting cranked up, I realize on the inside, my nose is about to bleed. Because I'm fucking sweating. I'm in the basement of a fucking high school gym in somewhere in Eastern Virginia, and the heat's on and it's hot, and I'm worked up and I'm sweating, and now I can tell it's running down the back of my throat. My nose is going to bleed. So what I kind of did, without letting it stop me or throw me off, I sniffed a few times, and I was hoping I could get by with it. But over the last 20 seconds or so, it actually starts running down my face, and you can see it. Now, you might think you see it beforehand because what's on YouTube is a 4th generation VHS. And so the mole on my upper lip looks like a giant goddamn glob. But it actually is blood the last 20 or 30 seconds. I think somebody said, my God, he had an aneurysm doing this promo. But the reason why I didn't stop and redo it is going to be fairly obvious when you listen to this promo. We didn't have the time, and if we did have the time, I wasn't going to go back and try to do this again. So I just fucking went with it. And by the end of the thing, when I'm standing there, breathing heavy, sweating, and there's blood running down my face, you kind of got the idea from that whole visual that I was serious. So we left it. And that was the story leading up to the promo and what happened. Let's play it and see if you have any questions on the other side, Brian.
Let's play it. And on the screen, Memorial Gym, Hazard, Thursday, November 26, 7:30 p.m. Kids under 12, only 57 cents.
That's because we were on WYMT, your Mountain Television 57. So everybody in the hills had 5 kids. If we got them to bring 5 kids for 57 cents apiece, then 2 adults paid full price.
Well, here it is from Smoky Mountain Wrestling Television.
And by the way, we did end up with almost 2,000 people, as I recall, that night in Hazard, Kentucky. Go ahead.
From Smoky Mountain Wrestling Television, November 21st, 1992.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Down and Dirty with Dutch. I'm Dutch Mantell, and you're not. I am back here today on this special segment in the dressing room area. I want to get Jim Cornette's comments on the upcoming match today between the Heavenly Bodies and Jim Cornette. Jim Cornette will be in the ring today against the Rock and Roll Express and Ronnie Garvin. Now, Jimmy, I know you're not in a very happy mood. We'd just like to get some of your comments for the fans at home.
Oh, I got comments, all right. I got comments. This is a con job. Pure and simple is exactly what it is. Everybody out there knows I don't belong in a professional wrestling ring. I'm not an athlete. I shouldn't be forced to wrestle. Sure, the Heavenly Bodies, they can take care of themselves, but now they got to worry about taking care of me, too, and it's all a con job. It's so crystal clear. Because first the Rock and Roll Express comes up with this 4 Faces of Fear challenge at Thanksgiving Thunder. The 4 most dangerous kind of matches in wrestling, 4 days in a row, never been done, and now they're trying to chicken out of it. Now they got to have some kind of advantage. So they go to Bob Armstrong and say they make up this dream match. Dream match, right. Yeah, people writing in, signing matches, booking matches. What it actually boils down to is they needed an advantage. They knew if they got me in the ring, then they'd have that advantage. So they dreamed up this con, and then Bob Armstrong said, well, it's a conflict of interest for me to wrestle. I'm the commissioner. I'll sign Ronnie Garvin, a psychopathic, homicidal, maniac, serial killer that would just as soon inflict pain on somebody as look at him. Right. I'll tell you what a conflict of interest is, Bob Armstrong. A conflict of interest is you dragging your old geriatric 184-year-old retirement home, Geritol for lunch bunch, back in there and getting it broken. Yeah. That's what conflict of interest is. But let me tell you something. That's okay. Hey, that's okay, Dutch. I'm going to stand up. That's okay. Because you see, we're going to be all right. Because you see, Rock and Roll Express, I don't know what we're going to do, but we're going to do something. You ain't going to get your hands on me. They think that if they put me out of commission, if I'm not there at ringside at Thanksgiving Thunder to lead my men on to victory, then they're going to have an advantage. If I'm not there to provide moral support, they're going to have an advantage. Well, they would, but I'm going to be there. But Rock and Roll, I'll tell you who's got an advantage. We do, brother. Robert Gibson, that hand ain't 100%. I know it. They know it. And you know it. Ricky Morton, maybe something might happen to you before Thanksgiving Thunder comes around that indicates that you're not 100% either. I don't know what that might be, but we'll think of something. The 4 most dangerous kind of matches in professional wrestling 4 days in a row. The 4 Faces of Fear. And I can assure you, Rock and Roll Express, I don't know when it's going to happen. I don't know where it's going to happen. I don't know exactly what point, but I do know it's going to happen. You're going to look at the face of fear. And you're going to look at it just like it's staring back from a mirror. You're going to see what that looks like, brother. Because there's one thing that's certain above all else. Nobody, but nobody, can go through 4 matches like this 4 days in a row without getting hurt. So at some point, somebody's going to get hurt real bad. and we plan on it being you. That's why we've accepted the risk. Either we get rid of you or you get rid of us, but one way or another it's going to be settled. Hazard, Kentucky, Thanksgiving night, November 26th. Falls count anywhere. You know what that means? That means it's not only legal to wrestle inside the ring, but outside the ring as well. You can go anywhere you want to go. In the lobby, the parking lot, the aisleway, concession stand, women's toilet, makes no difference. When somebody's back hits a flat surface and he gets counted down for 3, that's when the match is over with. Then Friday night, November 27th, Welch, West Virginia, Texas death match. Pure and simple, the rules are this: falls don't count. When a guy gets pinned, then he's got a 30-second rest period, and then the bell rings for the next fall. Could go 4 falls or 40. Guy's got a 10 count to make it to his feet and answer the bell. And brother, if he don't answer the bell, that means he can't continue. And that means he's been beat so bad that he can't get up. And the match goes until one man can't continue, because in a Texas death match, there's no time limit, no disqualification, no stopping the match. Then Freedom Hall, Johnson City, Saturday night, November 28th, our personal favorite, Smoky Mountain Street Fight. That's not even a wrestling match. You don't even get dressed to wrestle. You wear your street clothes, you wear your boots, your big belts, your big leather belts with the big belt buckles. You wear everything, you stick everything in your pockets you can stick in, and anything you can drag to the ring, brother, it's legal to use, because that's exactly what it is, a street fight. Ask the Fantastics how bad the heavenly bodies are in a street fight, brother, and you'll find out. That's in Johnson City. And then to top it all off, save the best for last, Knoxville, Tennessee, November 29th, Sunday afternoon. A barbed wire cage match. The ring entirely surrounded by a cage made out of 4-pronged barbed wire. When you get inside that thing, brother, and that door closes, there's no way for anybody else to get in or for you to get out unless you want to look like a stack of presidential memos the night before the Watergate trial. 4-pronged barbed wire, brother. And that's what's going to come down to. So at one point, Rock and Roll Express, you're going to look at the face of fear. And then you're going to look at the referee. Because when the heavenly bodies are on top of you, beating your stinking brains out, when maybe your teeth are lolling around in your mouth like chiclets, and you got a broken bone or your head's busted open, you're going to look at that referee and you're going to say, please, referee, please stop the match. Please pull him off of us. Please don't let this carnage go on any longer. And that referee's going to look at you, Rock and Roll, and he's going to say, I can't stop the match. I don't have the authority because you asked for it to be that way. And so then you're going to turn, you're going to look at me. And you're going to say, Jim Cornette, that blood's going to be running down your face mixing with those tears. Jim Cornette, please stop the match. Please call him off of us. Please, we can't take the torture anymore. And I'm going to look at you, Rock and Roll, and I'm going to say, I can't call him off of you. I can't stop it because you asked for it to be that way. You were stupid enough, and I don't feel sorry for stupid people. And then when we're standing there with our hands in the air, brother, and that championship belt across our shoulders, and all those genetic defects are booing us, but recognize this as the greatest tag team of all time, and you're laying there face down in a pool of your own blood, beaten, broken, and disgusted. Rock and Roll Express, you will realize that you have seen the face of fear, and it was the heavenly bodies. Thanksgiving Thunder, 4 Faces of Fear, Rock and Roll Express, your future is looking very, very dim.
Okay, fans, that's it. I thought Jimmy Cornette was worried, but he's got his confidence back. Stay tuned. The big 6-man tag on its way.
Dutch with the great wrap up there. Okay, he's got his confidence back. He's losing blood as we speak. That's why I didn't want to do that over again. Do you blame me?
That is a fantastic interview. Fantastic.
Well, but here's the thing, not trying to fillet myself on the air. But for the folks who want to, the aspiring young wrestlers, I don't know how a writer would have written that, or how anybody would memorize it if they did. But the basic components, I'm doing a heel interview, so I'm trying to be as abrasive and obnoxious as possible through the whole thing. But we gave a halfway legitimate explanation for why I'm upset about that night's television match, a halfway legitimate explanation for how these matches were booked, and then we gave the stipulations, the dates and places, so the people would make sure that they can mark down on their calendar when to attend and buy a ticket, and what we plan to do to the baby faces that they were going to have to overcome and stop us from doing. That's hyping a fight. That's selling tickets. That's cutting a promo for a match. The story that we had going, obviously, was referred to in a number of things that I said that if you're just listening to that in a vacuum, you don't know why Robert Gibson's hand was injured. You don't know why Bullet Bob Armstrong said something was a conflict. But we didn't beat them to death with a written recited version of the events thus far in our story. We referred to them. I referred to them. The announcers have been reinforcing them, and the people are living it in the moment. So instead, you concentrate on building the match, the confrontation, the final conflict, which we even used that before sometimes, the final conflict for a match, and get the people interested and want to see it. Who's going to win? How can the baby faces overcome this? What's going to happen? Are we going to get rid of these fucking heavenly bodies and that loudmouth Jim Cornette, or will the Rock and Roll Express come out as the tag team champions, or will they be run off? What the fuck? Create people asking questions over who's going to win and what's going to happen, and just hype it. And you've got to sound like you fucking mean it. And also, if you start bleeding, don't do it over again, because it ends up making it more memorable. That's the moral to that story.
Where'd you get the All Japan jacket?
Bobby Fulton.
Oh, makes sense.
Bobby Fulton twice, and I was so mad. The first time when the Fantastics were going to Japan, and I guess it was in '86. We weren't in the territory at the time, but I said, get me one of those Capital Sportswear warm-up suits, right, that all the boys wear. So he did, and I had given him measurements, and the pants came out a little short. They were always a little short, looked a little odd. So the next time he went, when '88, when we were working together in Charlotte for Crockett, I said, I said, get me another fucking warm-up outfit and blah, blah, blah. And he got me, and it fit just perfectly. And I'll be a son of a bitch. I still have the one that don't fit, but God damn it, I accidentally left the jacket to the one that fit perfectly, that would still fit me today now, in a locker room somewhere a few years later, and didn't realize it till I was gone and never went back.
Oh my God, that's awful.
But yeah, those Capital Sportswear warm-up suits were the rage amongst the guys in the 80s and 90s. Oh, and let me tell you this one real quick. The first one that I got had on the back of the jacket, where the guys would have their names or whatever, had Midnight Express written in Japanese. So it was Japanese writing. Nobody knew what it was. And I'm in Charlotte at Kabuta, the Japanese steakhouse, sitting and eating one night, and I'm wearing that jacket. And at the other end of the hibachi grill is this group of actual Japanese businessmen. And when I got up to went and take a fucking piss or whatever, they saw the back of my jacket, and when I sat down, they say, Midnight Express? What Midnight? I said, wrestling. And they all started doing the Baba Chop. Oh, Baba, and they're doing Baba Chops to each other. They don't know wrestling from Tom's House Cat as far as anything that's going on. They're Japanese businessmen, but everybody in Japan knew Baba, and they would do the Baba Chop with each other.
On TBS, when you did a promo, typically you would have either Dennis or Bobby or Stan and Bobby, one on each side of you. And sometimes they were serious. If it was more of a interview with some humor in it, maybe they would laugh, but usually just standing there while you do the talking. Here for this promo, Stan is very serious on one side of you. And on the other side, or behind you slightly, Tom Pritchard is nonstop moving and running his hands in his hair and talking to himself, it seems.
Well, no, he's not talking to himself. He's like, that's right, you tell him. But just he background fill stuff.
Was it distracting at all?
No. Goddamn, if you can't cut a fucking promo when people are talking around you, then you need to stay out of the wrestling business. We used to cut promos with 5,000 people in a fucking arena. No, he's back there. He's like, that's right, you tell him. And Stan's concerned up at front. But whether it was the Midnight and at the podium in Atlanta, or the Bodies, or whatever, or the Yokozuna, or the Bulldog and Owen, they all have to be themselves, and they can't just stand there. Well, Yoko's thing partly was just standing there with the evil face and then doing Banzai at the end. But mostly you wanted the guys to be out there and be animated and be emoting. Even if they can't speak, they're involved in it. It's not just they're ever just standing there bored. So no, that didn't throw me off, because you wanted shit like that. Every once in a while, something would happen I wouldn't expect. I think Murdoch used to throw me off every once in a while because he did something one time with the goddamn he had a job guy on Atlanta TV, and he threw the job guy through the podium and broke the podium. And then we came back later on, and he still had pieces of the podium, and he was cutting his promo, and fucking his breath was awful, and we started making over it just on the spot. Like, ooh, watch that breath, Dickie. And we'd make shit up. And which is why it looked kind of like we meant it and natural, because we were actually making the shit up as we went along. We hadn't, especially you didn't rehearse with Murdoch. But no, it made it to me more visually appealing when all the guys were into doing what they variously did. It wasn't as like, remember the Don Fargo and fucking who was his partner, the Chain Gang, but was it Frank? It was Frank Dillinger at the time.
Yeah, then it was Ken Dillinger later.
But they would goddamn just talk over the top of each other and nonstop and be talking and yelling and moving. But it was like, what the fuck? That was a little distracting, but it helped that the guys were not just being mute and standing there doing nothing. It was like they were, whoever I was talking for didn't get a lot of words in, but they still got a lot of camera time, and they got to look cocky and above it all while I did the talking for them. Fun times.
Well, real quick before I finish this with a question, here's a sample of the Chain Gang talking, since you just brought it up.
You've just got it on fucking speed dial there.
The Chain Gang, of course, at this time, he wasn't Don Fargo. It was Jack and Frank Dillinger. And here's them talking about a match with Dick the Bruiser and the Crusher.
We heard that we look pretty bad. No, sir. You should see the men that we wrestled, the Crusher and the Bruiser. You should see them. Listen, we're used to looking like this.
So bad,
this don't bother us at all.
Trying to put them together.
Finished and they're done.
Surgery
in fact, we would like to have another match with them, right? We're not afraid of them.
Because we didn't
heard
lose.
the comment made.
As far as we're concerned, and as far as all righteous people are concerned,
four toughies the way we can within 7 or 8 days. You know what we do?
Now we're heading for...
We fight 24 hours a day, not only in the ring, everywhere we go.
We fought all our lives.
Stops us. Nobody stops us.
We are the kicked in the head, kicked in the teeth.
How to do it.
Till we got to where we could do it,
winners.
And now we do it.
Why are we winners?
That's what we
because we're the greatest cheaters there are. There's only one way to get ahead in this business.
Why are we winners?
Because we are cheating.
Cheat.
And that's the only way to get ahead is to cheat. Now, we got this so-called, what's our main laughter? I can't think of his name right off the head.
Snyder.
Snyder.
And
there is a big round joke.
Pat O'Connor.
Ex-champions. That's another big... These guys don't have a chance against us. How can they possibly think they can stop an iron horse like us? Because we have
on there. We've got the momentum behind us, right?
Just dropped two of the toughest, and so we step up for two more.
It's just like a big bulldozer.
No way in the world
rolling over like one
it.
of those other big things. You know, what do you call them? You know.
Crane?
No,
the tank.
You're welcome.
That's what's going to happen to them.
You're welcome. They're going to be dead.
And that's
going to be run over.
But before we finish up our fight interview, I want to say one thing.
Go ahead, say a word or two.
Hammond, I want to mention one word.
Yeah. Mention what word?
Wilbur's. That is the biggest joke. We destroyed him right there in the town of Hammond.
Right, we
and he wants to come back
to the hospital.
He's
back at the office crutches.
You can't hurt us.
He's off his crutches like this, and he's ready for it again.
Nobody can stop it.
Well, there it is, the Chain Gang. No one does a promo like that. It's incredible.
And you know, those guys, 24 hours a day, Fargo lived every gimmick. They would ride up to the town on their motorcycles. The people would see them. They would come into the ring in the same clothes they'd showed up to the building in. They'd work the jeans and the jean jackets and everything. They'd fucking leave on the motorcycle. Whatever they did in between, you never had any idea. And off they go again the next day. And you believed them. And plus, looking at them, that's when Fargo was when he first got into business, he was a competitive bodybuilder. And then he got heavy and stocky. But then in 75, when he was almost 50, he fucking trimmed down to like 180 something. It was bodybuilding shape again with abs. And then the year after that was 300 pounds. But with that scarred up face. And then Dillinger was fucking just a huge, immense guy. He made Moondog Maine look fucking small and retiring.
And he's the guy who had to stop because, remember, the Hells Angels got mad at them. And, I mean, you probably know the story better than I do, but that was the end of Jack Dillinger in wrestling, the Hells Angels.
Well, but no, Frank.
Or Frank Dillinger, excuse me.
Because Don was Jack. And then, so Don got then Jim after that. But the Frank Dillinger story was they were working as the Hells Angels, not the Chain Gang. And because some places wanted the Chain Gang and some places let you do the Hells Angels. And apparently some real Hells Angels came to the matches and invited them out. Oh, we love you guys. We love what you're doing. And invited them to their clubhouse for a party that night, which when they showed up, found out the party was going to be that they weren't happy that their names were being bandied around, the Hells Angels, and some bad shit was going to take place. And Fargo claimed that he dove out the window and was able to get away, but they fucking, I think it was with a shotgun. They shot Frank Dillinger in the leg. And did he just lose the use of it, or did he have to have it cut off?
I've heard both stories, so I don't know.
But regardless, he never wrestled again afterwards, and they started being the Chain Gang instead of Hell's Angels. But yeah, Fargo said, I heard him say, he said to me with his own lips, I dove out the window. I don't know what the fuck happened.
So one final question about your promo. When you hear something like that, do you just think, oh, that was a pretty good promo, just another promo that I did? Or is it special to you? Do you think that's a great promo? I did a great job there.
No, I was cringing because I got the stipulations crossed and sold the matches and didn't blow the fucking take, so we had to do it again. But I said brother 1,000,000 times. So that would be if I was critiquing that for somebody else, I'd say, all right, you used a lot of words, but brother was too many. But that's kind of like when I'm flowing that fast, because there was a lot of shit, and I knew I'd only written 4 minutes for it, and I knew I wasn't going to make it, but I didn't want to take up too much time, and that's a good transition word just instead of a pause or a comma. But yeah, I cringe when I hear a lot of that stuff sometimes.
Well, you know, brother, there's a lot of wrestlers who are squeamish when it comes to blood, and you're lucky that Dutch Mantell wasn't, because potentially he could have sued you.
For a blood-borne disease, I could have been sued. I could have been hauled into court. I could have been tarred and feathered and run out of town. But instead, I was not. And you know why? Because on the horizon, a man was entering puberty at that time that would go on to become the greatest legal mind of our time. And the people knew that 25 years from now, Jim Cornette will be represented by that great legal mind, and we can't fuck with him, or elsewise that guy will come and make us wish we had never been born. He will make us curse our mothers for the day that they gave birth to us if we mess with Jim Cornette, because he is represented by this man.
Call Stephen P. News. If you need to sue. An outlaw mud show or two. Still to the rest.
Yes, even though he was merely a small child, just a pubescent male at the time, the legend of Stephen P. New was growing, and now, well, you know, it's growing until it just can't grow no more. But he will also, as we have come to find out, we've been mentioning this, Stephen P. New will be a guest we have heard on this coming weekend's Jim Cornette Experience, talking about the legal situation between Joey Ryan and some of the people that he has been suing for telling their stories. Stephen will give us some feedback on that on this weekend's Jim Cornette Experience. But of course, he can give you feedback if you've been harmed or damaged or compromised or in other ways fucked with by greedy, evil corporations people with malevolence and malfeasance in their hearts and minds, Stephen P. New can be your legal champion at newlawoffice.com, 888-692-8084. We've mentioned that the deadlines are running close now for some of these suits that he's been filing on behalf of people that were victimized in some way, given cancer by Roundup or cancer by the talcum powder or cancer. A lot of cancer being spread around by these people. In Minden, West Virginia, that the whole town was poisoned by a mining company that left dangerous, hazardous chemicals in the ground. He's helped people in nursing homes, the victims of elder abuse and mistreatment. He could help you too. newlawoffice.com, 888-692-8084. And he will be with us on the experience this coming weekend to shed further light on how he's trying to help some of the lesser lights in wrestling that are being persecuted by someone for mentioning the truth. And Stephen P. New is a crusader for the truth. Whereas some people wouldn't know the truth if it jumped up and bit them on the dick. Oh, I'm sorry, that would be a horrible visual, jumping up or biting or having anyone else grab your phallus.
Especially when talking about Joey Ryan, yes.
Yes, especially would it be against your will, and you're doing it only because you feel the need to further your career.